Welcome back to the Deep Dive, and we're coming to you today from the Baha'i Reflections channel.
We are so glad you could join us.
Absolutely. Whether you're one of our dedicated subscribers and, you follow us every week, or maybe this is your first time exploring with us, we just want to say thank you for tuning in.
And a really quick, sincere nod to our channel members.
Oh, for sure.
Your support is what lets us do these long-form, really deeply researched deep dives.
Yeah.
It helps us grow the community, which then lets us, develop new kinds of content.
Right, like the video overviews we've been working on.
Exactly. So we really do appreciate you.
We do. So our mission today is, well, it's a big one. We are launching a deep dive into the Baha'i Faith. This is a global religion that, while it often flies a bit under the mainstream radar, it's actually one of the most widely distributed faith communities on the entire planet.
It really is.
We're going to unpack its 19th century origins, its really revolutionary core teachings that were designed for the modern world, its unique administrative structure, and, how its followers, millions of them, live their lives all across the globe.
It's a truly compelling study, I think, just because of its sheer scale and, frankly, its ambition.
Right.
When we talk about the Baha'i Faith, we're discussing a religion with, somewhere between 7 and 8 million adherents worldwide.
Wow.
And it's established in virtually every single country and territory. But what's really crucial to understand right from the get-go is how the faith defines itself.
Okay, what is that?
It's an independent religion, and it's dedicated to two fundamental principles. First, the essential worth of all religions, and second, the absolute unity of all people.
That sets the philosophical stage beautifully. But before we dive into the history, let's just, ground ourselves a bit by defining the key term.
Good idea.
What does it actually mean to be a Baha'i, and where does that word even come from?
So the term Baha'i serves both as the adjective for the faith itself, the Baha'i Faith, and as the name for a follower.
A follower of Baha'u'lláh, the founder.
Exactly. And it's directly derived from an Arabic word, Baha.
Baha.
Yeah, which translates to glory or splendor. You can even say the light of God. So fundamentally, a Baha'i is someone who is following the path of the divine splendor.
But the spiritual definition, the practical application of that, it seems to carry so much more weight than just the linguistic origin.
Oh, absolutely.
I often see quotes from the central figures that really emphasize action over just, claiming an identity.
That's a critical distinction.
Yeah.
Abdu'l-Bahá, who was the son of the founder, he put it this way: to be a Baha'i simply means to love all the world, to love humanity and try to serve it, to work for universal peace and universal brotherhood.
So it shifts the whole idea of identity.
It completely shifts it. It goes from just a nominal title to a lived ethical commitment.
Right.
It suggests that if you aren't actively engaged in serving humanity and, striving for that global unity, then the name itself doesn't carry much meaning.
And that's the guiding ethos we need to keep in our minds as we go through this.
Exactly.
Okay, so with that ethos established, let's turn to the very difficult reality of its birth. We're moving into section 1, the origins of a new global religion. When we talk about the beginnings of the Baha'i Faith, we're not talking about some quiet spiritual movement in the West.
Not at all.
We're talking about profound upheaval in 19th century Iran, which was then known as Persia, and the surrounding Middle East.
That historical stage is paramount. You can't understand the faith without it. The 19th century in Persia was just marked by intense political corruption, widespread moral breakdown.
The calcified religious orthodoxy.
Completely. The society was spiritually stagnant and socially turbulent. It was a setting just primed for some kind of major religious or social challenge.
And we have to be clear here, this isn't just ancient history.
No, absolutely not. The sources all emphasize that the Baha'i community has faced intense, ongoing persecution since the very beginning, particularly in Iran.
And that tragically continues to this very moment.
To this day.
So the opening act of this whole drama, it belongs to the man who paved the way, the Bab.
Yes, the Bab. His name literally translates as the Gate.
The Gate.
He's revered as the herald of the faith. His given name was Mirza Ali Muhammad of Shiraz. He was a young, well-respected merchant who, on the evening of May 22, 1844, declared his mission.
And that date is seen as the start of this whole new cycle of revelation.
That's the one.
So what was the Bab's specific role? How is he distinct from just a typical reformer?
Well, he had two interconnected roles. First, he was the bearer of a new, distinct, independent religion.
Babism.
Okay, so its own religion.
Its own sacred texts, its own calendar, its own laws.
Well,
He was signaling that the Islamic dispensation was, in fact, over.
but his second and arguably more profound role was that of the symbolic gate. He was the hinge between all of past prophecy, the promises you find in previous religious texts, and this imminent new age of fulfillment.
And his central teaching was focused on someone else coming.
Utterly focused. He continually and universally referred to the coming of a greater messenger, someone he called "He whom God shall make manifest."
So he was actively dismantling the religious and social structures of his day, but not just to reform them,
Exactly.
but to clear the way for someone even greater.
Precisely. His teachings called for radical spiritual and moral reformation. He talked about women's rights, uplifting the poor.
Which was revolutionary at the time.
Absolutely revolutionary. And it directly challenged the entrenched power of the Islamic clergy, the mullahs. So naturally, this led to immediate and brutal pushback.
And his ministry was tragically short, wasn't it? It culminated in his public execution.
Indeed. The clergy just saw his claims as blasphemous, a mortal threat to their authority. His followers, the Babis, faced horrific persecution and torture.
How horrific.
After just 6 years of this short but incredibly powerful ministry, the Bab himself was imprisoned and eventually executed by a firing squad in the public square of Tabriz in 1850.
And thousands of his followers were martyred.
Thousands. It was a violent, bloody birth for this new religious wave. For Baha'is, there's a historical account of this period called the Dawn Breakers.
Right.
It's considered essential reading. It details the incredible self-sacrifice and faith of these early followers.
And that persecution only intensified until the arrival of the one the Bab had foretold, the founder of the Baha'i Faith, Bahá'u'lláh.
Baha'u'lláh. The name means the glory of God.
Okay.
He was born Mirza Hussein Ali in Tehran in 1817, and he came from a family of great wealth, great nobility.
So a very different background.
Very different. Even in his youth, he was renowned for his wisdom, his generosity, and his just fierce dedication to justice for the downtrodden.
And it's telling that even though he was offered a position in the Shah's court, he turned it down.
He did. He declined it, choosing instead a life dedicated to serving the oppressed masses.
So how did his life intersect with the Babi movement?
He was a follower of the Bab, and he suffered right alongside the Babis. His suffering really began in 1852 when he was arrested and thrown into that notorious subterranean dungeon in Tehran, the Siyah.
The Black Pit.
The Black Pit. And this experience, it wasn't just physical suffering. It's described as the moment of his spiritual transformation.
It's where the revelation began.
Absolutely. Baha'u'lláh described this time, in this dark, filthy pit, chained neck to neck with other prisoners,
Unimaginable.
as the moment when the maid of heaven appeared to him and announced his divine mission. So the Siyah is viewed not just as a place of agony, but as the symbolic birthplace of the Baha'i revelation.
And his time in that dungeon led directly to his exile, which then spanned 4 decades.
It was a continuous life of forced relocation, just an unbroken chain of exile. First to Baghdad in 1853, then to Constantinople, then Adrianople, which is modern Iran, and finally to the desolate Ottoman penal colony of Acre.
Acre near Haifa.
Near modern-day Haifa in 1868.
So when did he formally proclaim his identity as the promised one?
That moment, that huge declaration, came in 1863 during his initial exile in Baghdad.
Okay.
Specifically, it took place in a place called the Garden of Ridvan, which means the Garden of Paradise, just before he was forced to leave for Constantinople.
And what did he say?
There, he proclaimed to his followers that he was "He whom God shall make manifest," the fulfillment of the prophecies of the Bab and all the other divine educators of the past.
So that event, the Declaration of Ridvan, that's the official start of the Baha'i Faith as its own thing.
That is the official inception, yes.
And the prison city of Acre ultimately became the spiritual center of the faith.
It did. Baha'u'lláh spent the final years of his life in and around Acre. And when he passed away in 1892, he had already successfully established the foundations of a new world religion.
And followers had already spread pretty far by then.
Oh yeah, across 13 countries in Asia and Africa. And today, the most sacred spot for Baha'is, the Shrine of Baha'u'lláh in Baji, Israel, is their Qibla.
The Qibla, that's the direction of prayer.
The most holy place, exactly, where they turned for their daily obligatory prayers.
Now, to make sure this new religion didn't just shatter after his passing, Baha'u'lláh did something pretty unique. He established a clear, written line of succession.
Yes, the covenant.
The covenant. This ensured the continuity of guidance.
This step was, frankly, unprecedented among previous religions. The first successor was his eldest son, Abdu'l-Bahá, who lives from 1844 to 1921.
And he was appointed by Baha'u'lláh himself.
Explicitly, as the sole authorized interpreter of the teachings and the head of the faith. That interpretive authority was absolute, and it was designed to prevent any rival claims.
Abdu'l-Bahá seems to have been just instrumental in transforming the faith from a Middle Eastern movement into a global one.
Absolutely. He's revered as the perfect exemplar, the living, breathing example of how a Baha'i should live their life.
And he traveled widely.
He did. After he was released from confinement in 1908, he embarked on these extensive travels to Europe and the United States. He became a tireless ambassador for peace, speaking everywhere.
Churches, universities.
Public forums, you name it. He consolidated the religion globally and introduced the faith's revolutionary principles to Western society.
And his passing in 1921, that marked the end of an era.
A huge one. Baha'is refer to it as the end of the heroic age of the faith. It concluded the direct ministry of the central figures.
And the leadership then passed to his grandson, Shoghi Effendi, who really shifted the focus from that heroic foundation to building the permanent global structure.
That's right. Shoghi Effendi served as the guardian of the faith from 1921 until 1957, and his mission was highly systematic. He defined the detailed administrative framework and principles. He was translating the spiritual aspirations of Baha'u'lláh into practical institutional structures.
And this is when the faith really spread internationally.
Massively. The period under his guidance led to this immense, widespread international distribution of the faith outside of its birthplace in Iran, where, as we mentioned, the persecution just tragically continued to mount. He successfully prepared the global community for the establishment of the ultimate governing body, which would take over after his death.
Okay, that historical narrative suffering, exile, and this clear line of authority, that really provides the foundation. So let's move into section 2.
Let's do it.
This is where the theology and philosophy intersect with practical social architecture, the foundational teachings. And we have to start with the core of all monotheistic faiths, the unity of God.
Indeed, strict monotheism is the bedrock. Baha'i writings describe God as a single, personal, eternal, omniscient, and almighty creator.
But the sources make a subtle but really profound distinction.
They do. God's essence is utterly unknowable and unreachable by human comprehension.
That's the paradox, isn't it? If God is personal, how can the essence be unknowable? What does that mean for how we interact with the divine?
It means that we, as humans, we can't create a complete or, accurate image of the Creator. God is exalted above all the material and intellectual limitations we can even conceive of.
So we relate to God indirectly.
Exactly, through the divine intermediaries, the manifestations or messengers. Our understanding of God is achieved by recognizing these messengers and studying their revelations.
So titles like all-powerful or all-loving.
They're a necessary spiritual language. They help translate aspects of godliness into human terms so we can focus on our own spiritual development and our path of service.
So if God is the ultimate object of devotion, what is the ultimate human purpose, on this plane of existence?
The Baha'i writings are very explicit. The purpose of life is twofold.
Okay.
First, to learn to know and love God, and second, to advance our spiritual and moral development.
And how is that achieved?
Through daily prayer, deep reflection, and most critically, through continuous and selfless service to others. The inner spiritual life has to flow out into practical, loving service in the world.
This leads us to probably the most defining theological feature of the faith, the concept that really binds all these revelations together, progressive revelation. This is where it gets really interesting.
It really is. Progressive revelation is the essential unifying principle. It basically says that religious truth is not static or absolute, but it's relative and continuous.
So revelation is ongoing.
It's cyclical and ongoing. God reveals his teachings periodically through these messengers, the manifestations of God, who establish new religions suited for the capacity and maturity of humanity at that time.
So if I'm following this, every great religious founder, they're all essentially part of the same divine system.
Exactly.
Regardless of when they appeared or how different their specific laws might seem.
Exactly. They are all viewed as manifestations reflecting the light of one God. So founders like Abraham, Krishna, Moses, Buddha, Zoroaster, Christ, Muhammad, the Bab, and Baha'u'lláh.
They're all part of a single, unfolding divine plan.
That's it. They're often described as perfect mirrors, each reflecting the same sun of truth, but maybe focusing that light on different issues relevant to their specific age.
So they're human in one sense.
Human in that they are separate individuals with specific missions, yes, but divine in the sense that they perfectly expound God's teachings.
Help us elaborate on that analogy of the school. If religion is a continuous education system for humanity, how do the laws change? Can you give us an example?
Sure. Think of humanity as a child growing up. In elementary school, you need simple, strict rules, maybe rules about diet or social organization to survive in a fragmented tribal world.
Right.
But as humanity matures, as its capacity increases, it moves on to high school, then college. It needs more complex, more global requirements.
Okay, so a specific example.
Well, the Mosaic dispensation had very specific, and some might say strict, laws about diet or the direction of prayer.
Right.
That was suitable for a tribal community in a specific place.
Makes sense.
Baha'u'llah's laws, on the other hand, might revoke monasticism or require the study of science. Why? Because humanity in this modern age requires unification and the harmony of reason and faith, not withdrawal from the world.
So the core spiritual virtues, love, justice, those remain constant.
They're always there. But the specific laws and social organization, they adapt to the conditions and varying requirements of the age.
That makes the process seem very logical, but where does it end?
Well, while the process of revelation is continuous, Baha'is believe that Baha'u'llah's dispensation is the most recent and the most comprehensive. It's specifically tasked with laying the groundwork for world peace.
So no new manifestation anytime soon.
For that reason, Baha'is don't expect a new manifestation to appear for at least 1,000 years. It provides a long period for consolidation.
That idea of consolidation leads us right to the foundational principle that dictates their whole social structure, the oneness of humanity.
This is it. This is the pivotal, non-negotiable principle of the faith. The teaching is simple in concept, but so revolutionary in application.
And what is it exactly?
That humanity is fundamentally one, an organic whole. And this unity must absolutely transcend race, nation, gender, caste, and social class.
And diversity is celebrated?
It's viewed as a source of richness and appreciation, not division, like the varied flowers in a single garden.
And this principle, it carries with it a very strong moral obligation to actively work against division.
Precisely. The Baha'i writings are just uncompromising in condemning prejudice in all its forms: religious, racial, class, national.
Calling it the cause of all conflict.
The singular cause of historical conflict and war. The antidote is seen as active effort, forging strong, trusting, loving relationships with people from all backgrounds.
Moving beyond just tolerance.
Oh, way beyond tolerance, to genuine acceptance and unity.
And this demand for unity, it necessitates true equality, specifically between men and women.
This is one of the most emphasized prerequisites for global unity.
There's a
Powerful
nice
analogy that's used.
The two wings.
Humanity is like a bird that needs two equally strong wings to soar. One wing is the woman, the other the man. If either wing is weak, the bird can't fly toward the goal of global civilization.
So denying that equality is an injustice that holds everyone back.
It holds everyone back. It not only harms women, but it promotes harmful, imbalanced attitudes in men, which then just spills out into economic and political dysfunction in society.
Moving from social reform to intellectual inquiry, the faith insists on the synergy between faith and reason.
The harmony of science and religion. Yes, this is essential for the modern age. It says that science and religion are two complementary systems of knowledge.
They have to exist in harmony.
They must.
Yes.
If they contradict each other, then one or the other, or maybe both, are being misunderstood. If religion relies only on superstition, it becomes fanatical and dangerous.
And if science operates without a moral foundation,
It becomes materialistic and dangerous.
and that synergy naturally demands the independent investigation of truth.
Exactly. Since religious truth is relative and progressive, and faith has to align with reason, followers are mandated to conduct an uncensored, active, personal search after truth.
So no blind acceptance of tradition.
Blind acceptance of tradition, superstition, or the interpretations of religious figures is explicitly rejected. You, as the believer, are responsible for verifying your beliefs through reason and investigation.
The scale of this vision is just huge. So Shoghi Effendi, he synthesized these aims into a clear set of essential principles for establishing world peace.
He did.
Let's expand on those crucial social and economic elements. The supreme goal is universal peace.
Permanent and universal peace, which requires a new world order. To get there, several foundational teachings have to be implemented. First, compulsory universal education is essential.
Not just for literacy.
No, for moral development, ensuring every single person has the capacity to contribute to society.
And the call for a universal auxiliary language that speaks directly to crippling systems of oppression.
It does. A universal auxiliary language, which doesn't replace local languages, it just serves as a bridge, is seen as crucial for breaking down nationalistic barriers and achieving a truly world-embracing culture.
Because when people can communicate directly,
They dismantle the systems of misunderstanding that enable oppression, things like human trafficking or regional conflict.
what about the economic implications? How does the faith propose to deal with the vast disparities of wealth we see today?
This is a complex implication of the oneness of humanity, the abolition of the extremes of wealth and poverty.
But it's not communism.
No, the writings don't endorse communism or strict socialism. Instead, they promote a system based on spiritual responsibility. This involves specific measures like a graduated tax system, but it primarily emphasizes the voluntary sharing of wealth, communal responsibility.
And the idea that wealth isn't inherently bad?
Right, but its extreme hoarding creates poverty and destabilizes the whole human family. The goal is to ensure a dignified standard of living for all, achieved through consultation in collective systems, rather than, violent revolution.
So a global ethical redistribution driven by spirituality and law.
Precisely. This worldview also calls for the institution of a world tribunal for disputes and ultimately a world federation, moving beyond the current, often divisive structure of nation-states.
And finally, there's the exaltation of work itself.
Yes, any honest labor performed in the spirit of service to humanity, from teaching a child to cleaning a street, is raised to the rank of worship. It equates your daily effort with spiritual devotion.
Okay, to realize these immense, lofty goals, the faith needs an administrative system that is both unified and adaptable. So Section 3, the administrative foundation and governance. Since there's no traditional clergy or priesthood, how does the Baha'i Faith maintain its unity across millions of followers in over 200 countries?
It all comes back to the covenant of Baha'u'lláh.
The covenant.
The covenant is foundational. It is the single greatest defense against schism and division. It's the set of rules and instructions established by Baha'u'lláh for holding the community together and ensuring guidance continues after the central figures pass.
And this structure is what prevents the kind of fracturing you see in almost every other religion.
That's the design.
So what is the specific mechanism that ensures this unity?
It's protected by an explicit written line of authority. That authority flowed from Baha'u'lláh to Abdu'l-Bahá, then to Shoghi Effendi as the guardian, and finally to the Universal House of Justice.
And the crucial aspect is the clear prohibition against individual interpretation of Scripture.
That's key. No individual follower, no matter how wise or knowledgeable they are, is permitted to propose inspired or authoritative interpretations. Interpretation was vested solely in the guardian, Shoghi Effendi, while legislation is vested in the Universal House of Justice.
So anyone who tries to claim that kind of authority or create division is essentially shunned?
That's the mechanism of protection, yes. Unity is so highly valued that any attempt at schism is immediately condemned. These few individuals who try to create division are designated as covenant breakers.
And these attempts haven't been very successful.
The sources confirm they've been largely unsuccessful. Splinter groups remain extremely small, maybe a few hundred adherents worldwide combined. This continuity of authority is what makes the administrative order so unique.
Tell us more about the structure of this administrative order. You mentioned it's designed to be free from clergy.
Unlike systems that just evolved organically or politically after a founder died, the Baha'i order rests on laws and institutions specifically established by Baha'u'lláh himself.
So it's all by design.
All by design. It is entirely free of clergy, priests, or ritual leaders. It's non-political and non-partisan, designed from the outset to avoid the pitfalls of nationalism, religious fanaticism, and institutional self-interest.
The apex of this structure is the Universal House of Justice, or the UHJ.
The UHJ is the 9-member governing institution for the worldwide Baha'i community. It's located in Haifa, Israel, near the spiritual and administrative center of the faith.
And its role is twofold.
Right. It's the final authority to resolve disagreements, and it's the only institution authorized to legislate on matters not explicitly covered in Baha'i scripture.
And that legislative role is adaptable, reflecting the principle of progressive revelation.
Precisely. This is key to the faith's dynamism. Any law that the Universal House of Justice makes can be changed or revised by succeeding houses of justice years or decades later.
Which allows the faith to remain modern and relevant.
Without having to wait for new manifestation, yes.
Okay, we have to address one point that often comes up in discussions about the faith's commitment to gender equality.
I know where you're going.
The membership of the Universal House of Justice. The sources state that the members are addressed as men. Given the strong emphasis on men and women being the two equal wings of humanity, how does the faith reconcile this?
It is a critical and sensitive point, and it requires a careful look, not a quick dismissal. The writings of both Baha'u'lláh and Abdu'l-Bahá explicitly establish the essential equality of men and women. Full stop. But Baha'u'lláh specified that only men are to be elected to the Universal House of Justice. Abdu'l-Bahá stated that the reason for this restriction will be as clear as the sun in the future.
Suggesting a reason we don't fully grasp yet.
Exactly, a reason connected to the future purpose of that specific institution.
So how do Baha'is reconcile this profound commitment to equality with this very specific institutional restriction?
The reconciliation relies on a distinction between legislative authority and administrative or executive function.
Okay.
While women cannot serve on the highest legislative body, they serve on all other administrative, executive, and judicial bodies, national and local assemblies, often making up half the membership.
So the restriction is seen as highly specific to the function of the UHJ.
Very specific, and not indicative of women's lesser spiritual or intellectual station. It requires the community to trust that the reasons for this exception, given the faith's overall emphasis on equality, are rooted in some necessity related to the ultimate structure of world governance foreseen by the founder.
So it remains a mystery of the covenant.
A profound mystery, waiting to be clarified by future developments.
Okay. So below the UHJ, the structure scales down into national and local spiritual assemblies.
The NSAs and LSAs, these are the democratically elected, annually selected bodies that govern the religion's affairs regionally and locally.
And you need at least 9 adult believers in a locality to form one.
That's right. And the process by which these bodies are chosen is maybe one of the most innovative aspects of the whole structure.
It sounds like an attempt to create a perfect form of nonpartisan democracy. How does that electoral process actually work without political machinery?
That's a great way to put it. Democracy without political parties. Elections for the LSA and NSA are held annually by secret ballot and plurality vote.
And the crucial rule is no campaigning.
Absolutely no campaigning, no nomination, no electioneering is allowed. Voters are asked to pray and then choose 9 individuals based purely on character, notability, recognized capacity, and loyalty to the faith.
So you're focused on the interests of the whole community, not a faction.
Exactly. It eliminates the divisive, partisan, and often corrupting elements of traditional politics from the spiritual governance of the faith.
Once elected, how did these assemblies make decisions? They aren't responsible to an electorate, so how do they reach unified conclusions?
They use a unique technique known as consultation. The assemblies are bound by their collective conscience, developed through their Baha'i education and devotion, not by public opinion or mass emotion.
And consultation is a structured, spiritualized process.
It is. Members have to enter the discussion with detachment, viewing their own opinions as just suggestions. All opinions are encouraged, and the core principle is that the shining spark of truth cometh forth only after the clash of differing opinions.
So it requires vigorous, even challenging debate, but with an underlying commitment to finding the spiritual truth. What happens once they reach a decision?
This is the genius of the system. Consultation isn't consensus, it's majority rule, but with a spiritual commitment to unity in action.
Meaning?
Once a majority decision is reached, all opposition must cease.
Yeah.
Every member, even those who oppose the measure, is then expected to rise and support the implementation of that decision wholeheartedly.
Which avoids lingering partisan politics and division.
Meticulously designed to do so. It ensures collective action is taken swiftly and unity is preserved, laying the administrative groundwork for world justice.
That structural framework provides the blueprint for global action. But what about the grassroots, individual level? Let's turn to Section 4, the Baha'i life and community practices.
Okay.
How do these high-minded principles translate into the daily spiritual and physical life of an individual Baha'i?
The individual life is really anchored in devotion and service. Prayer is a non-negotiable requirement.
The obligatory prayers.
Every adult Baha'i is required to individually recite an obligatory prayer each day. There are 3 options of different lengths and forms, using fixed words.
And beyond that.
Daily devotional prayer, meditation, and study of the sacred writings are all strongly encouraged as essential ways to connect the soul directly with the Creator. This direct connection is what eliminates the need for a priesthood.
And the faith has an annual devotional period like other world religions.
Yes, the 19-day fast. Adult Baha'is observe this period each year during daylight hours in March.
With some exemptions, of course.
Right, for the ill, travelers, women who are pregnant or nursing, or those doing heavy manual labor. But it's strictly a spiritual practice, a time for reflection, inner renewal, and detachment from material desires.
And it culminates in the Baha'i New Year.
Nowruz, which occurs on the vernal equinox, usually around March 21st.
The sources are also really clear about certain lifestyle choices, especially regarding work and withdrawal from society.
That's right. Monasticism, asceticism, begging as a profession, all strictly forbidden. The faith mandates engaging actively with the world.
And the profound spiritual twist here is the exaltation of work.
Work performed in the spirit of service to humanity is raised to the rank of worship. This means a person's daily labor, if it's motivated by a desire to contribute to society, is given the same spiritual merit as prayer or fasting.
This emphasis on personal conduct also extends to prohibitions designed to maintain a high spiritual standard.
Yes, many prohibitions deal with interpersonal conduct and personal purity. Backbiting and gossiping are explicitly forbidden, considered morally corrosive.
Right.
The drinking and selling of alcohol, along with other mind-altering substances, is strictly forbidden. And reflecting the faith's supranational identity, participation in partisan politics is forbidden.
So Baha'is are encouraged to vote, but not align with parties.
Exactly. You vote, but you don't align yourself with specific parties or candidates based on affiliation.
Regarding personal laws, the topic of sexuality is often challenging for faith communities. What's the guidance in the Baha'i writings?
The guidance establishes marriage as the foundation for the family unit. Sexual intercourse is permitted only between a husband and a wife.
Inconsequently.
Consequently, the practice discourages premarital, extramarital, and homosexual relations. However, this is balanced by an absolutely essential corollary. The faith strongly stresses profound tolerance, love, and freedom from prejudice toward homosexual individuals.
And the observance of these laws is personal.
It is designated as the sole responsibility of the individual believer before God.
That tension-strict personal law alongside profound social tolerance must require a delicate balance.
It does. The focus is placed entirely on the individual's spiritual journey. Confession of sins to others, like to a priest, is forbidden.
So you're directly responsible before God.
Every Baha'i is, for their own actions and spiritual progress. The community's role isn't to police personal behavior, but to support the individual's growth through education and love, and to focus on collective action.
Let's shoot to that collective action. The core activities that define grassroots Baha'i community life.
Okay, these activities are designed to build spiritual, intellectual, and moral capacity in everyone, not just Baha'is.
Upholding the unity of humankind at the local level.
Exactly. They are free, open to all, and are highly decentralized, focusing on empowering local populations.
And we start with programs for the youngest members of society.
Children's classes are a huge priority. They focus on teaching essential spiritual qualities like truthfulness, generosity, justice, kindness, using age-appropriate methods.
Stories, arts.
Memorizing quotes, storytelling, creative arts, yeah. The goal is to strengthen the child's moral capacity and help them distinguish good from bad at a formative age. Teachers also work closely with the families, which strengthens community bonds.
And the 11 to 14 age group seems to have a specially designed program.
The junior youth phase is seen as a critical window. It's a time when young adolescents are questioning their identity and are vulnerable to all sorts of influences.
So the Junior Youth Spiritual Empowerment Program is designed for them.
Specifically, animators, who are often older youth, guide these groups through materials that promote critical thinking, spiritual strength, and acts of service.
Can you give an example of a service project they might do?
Oh, they're highly localized. It could be teaching literacy to younger kids, organizing community cleanups, providing homework help, or organizing social events to promote neighborhood cohesion.
The focus is helping them see themselves as agents of change.
Not just passive recipients of culture. And globally, the scale is impressive. Over 150,000 junior youth are currently involved.
Beyond youth activities, how do adults engage in collective spiritual life and education?
Through devotional gatherings and study circles. Devotional gatherings are simple, informal prayer settings open to everyone, friends, neighbors, family.
So while individual prayer nourishes the soul,
These gatherings strengthen unity. They prioritize a shared experience of spirituality and profound conversation, and they vary widely based on local culture.
and the study circles are the engine of shared vision.
They're the educational backbone. They're egalitarian groups, so there's no formal teacher. Instead, they're led by a trained tutor.
And they use a sequence of courses.
Right, the Rui Institute materials. Things like Reflections on the Life of the Spirit, covering prayer, life and death, teaching children's classes. They're open to all, with no prerequisites, and they develop a shared understanding of community-building strategies.
Let's round out our discussion of practices by looking at the calendar and places of worship. What defines the Baha'i calendar?
It's based on the system established by the Bab, 19 months, each with 19 days.
Plus the intercalary days?
Yes, the 4 or 5 intercalary days Ayami Ha are added just before the last month, which is the fast, to complete the solar year. The new year is Nowruz at the vernal equinox.
And this calendar organizes the centerpiece of the community gathering, the 19-day feast.
The feast is a mandatory monthly gathering for all local Baha'is, designed to foster deep community unity. And it has 3 distinct, equally important parts.
What are they?
First, the devotional part, with prayers and readings. Second, the administrative consultation part, where the community consults on local affairs. This part is for Baha'is only.
And third,
The social part, for fellowship and building personal bonds. And on top of that, there are 11 holy days observed annually, commemorating major historical events, with work suspended on 9 of them.
finally, the physical structures of worship, the houses of worship, or the mashriq-al-adkar. Their architecture is always so recognizable.
The name means the dawning place of the remembrance of God. All houses of worship have to follow a specific design, a 9-sided shape, a nonagon with 9 entrances.
And the number 9 is symbolic.
It symbolizes completeness and the numerical value of Baha in the Abjad system. The design reflects the ideal of unity, welcoming people from all directions and backgrounds.
And what about the function? What happens inside?
They are dedicated purely to devotion, open to everyone, regardless of faith. To maintain that focus, there are strict rules.
Second.
Only the holy scriptures of the Baha'i Faith and the scriptures of the other world religions may be read or chanted. And critically, no sermons, no rituals, and no musical instruments are allowed inside.
Which eliminates the possibility of clergy or promoting one interpretation.
Exactly.
The ultimate vision for these structures sounds far grander than just the temple itself, though.
It is. The temple is the spiritual core. But the Baha'i writings envision these houses of worship surrounded by a whole complex of institutions for humanitarian, scientific, and educational pursuits.
The dependencies.
Right. Think of universities, hospitals, libraries, and orphanages radiating out from the central temple. The concept is to integrate the spiritual life, the devotion in the temple, with the practical life of service and social action that's required by the principle of the oneness of humanity.
Wow. We have completed an exhaustive exploration. We've traced the path from the profound suffering of its 19th century origins through the revolutionary concept of progressive revelation, the unique administrative framework of the Universal House of Justice, and all the way down to the daily grassroots activities aimed at transforming neighborhoods worldwide.
And if we connect all those threads to the bigger picture, I think the faith's unique contribution lies in its structure for implementation.
Right.
It's designed to take the high ideals of unity and justice, which is the core message of all religions, and provide a practical, collective, and unified mechanism to actually achieve them on a global scale.
Specifically by steering clear of divisive elements.
Exactly. Divisive elements of traditional politics, nationalism, and priesthoods. It's a continuous systematic process aimed at healing the world.
That raises a final provocative question for you, the listener, to mull over. If the purpose of this life is to know and love God through service, what happens after death? This faith really challenges a lot of traditional notions of the afterlife.
It does. Let's talk about heaven and hell.
Okay.
The Baha'i view completely redefines those concepts. Heaven and hell are not physical places of fiery punishment or material reward.
So what are they?
They're taught to be spiritual states of nearness to or distance from God that define our relationship with the Creator, both in this world and the world to come.
And the soul's journey itself is infinite.
Yes, upon death, the soul is permanently separated from the body and it carries on. The key theological concept is that the soul will continue to progress infinitely through ever more exalted spiritual realms.
And that process never goes backward.
It never regresses.
Yeah.
It's a continuous journey toward the perfect state, which is the nearness of God. That progress, however, is profoundly influenced by two factors.
What are they?
The foundation of spiritual development we build during our physical life here, our deeds, our reflection, our service, and the subsequent grace and bounty of God, including the sincere prayers of those we leave behind.
That begs the question that we want to leave you with. If the spiritual journey is indeed infinite and non-regressing, how significantly does the foundation you build through moral action and service in this brief physical existence? How much does that influence the direction and speed of that entire eternal progression? It gives immense weight to every single day.
A profound thought to carry forward into your week.
If you enjoyed this extensive deep dive into the Baha'i Faith, please do remember to subscribe, like, comment, and share. As a small channel focused on these in-depth explorations, that engagement truly helps us reach new audiences and grow this community.
It really does.
We track the numbers, and right now, only about 48% of our viewers are subscribed. So please consider hitting that subscribe button if you appreciate this content.
And just a quick reminder that YouTube channel memberships are available for as little as 99 cents. That small amount of support helps us continue to fund the detailed research required for these long, deep dives. It brings you content early, and you get upcoming exclusive content, like the video overviews we're developing.
Finally, if there is anything else you would like to see us explore in future deep dives, whether it's related to the Baha'i Faith or other major topics, let us know in the comments below. We will do our best to include that in additional videos. Thank you so much for joining us.